In today's edition of Parent to Parent, we're looking at the trend towards banning or at least limiting the use of video cameras in hospital delivery rooms. Now, the moment of birth is something that many parents want to preserve and share, but some doctors and their insurance agents would like to see video cameras banned entirely. Some say it's because doctors don't want those videos to come back and haunt them in court. Carla Campos of Tulsa, Oklahoma, filed a malpractice suit against her OBGYN 7 years after her daughter was born with nerve damage to one arm. Carla Campos and her attorney, Guy GoodmornAmerCampo, are here with us this morning. And joining us from Washington with a medical perspective on the videotaping issue is Rick Wade. He's the Senior Vice President with the American Hospital Association, which represents more than 5,000 hospitals nationwide. Mr. Wade, if you'll wait just a moment, I'd like to start with Ms. Campos. Why did you want to videotape?
We were very excited about the birth and a very big event in our life. We were looking forward to it, and that we video all our big events.
And when something went wrong at this delivery, in your opinion, you had it on videotape?
Yes.
Was it in part because of the videotape that you decided to bring the lawsuit against your doctor?
Yes, it was. Definitely.
Because of what you saw on the tape?
Yes.
Tell me why.
I didn't video the I didn't view the tape until 7 years after. I had believed that my daughter was born with a birth defect and did not realize until then it had been a birth trauma, and that trauma had happened that moment in time. So at that point I went back and viewed the video.
Now, Mr. Courtney, would she have had a lawsuit without the videotape?
I don't think she would have. This videotape, in our expert's opinion, clearly showed an act of malpractice in this case. The medical records didn't reflect that anything really happened during the birth of this child, and without the videotape, we wouldn't have been able to go forward.
Now, we should point out that you did not prevail in this lawsuit. The doctor won.
That's true.
Which raises an interesting question. Why would doctors be opposed to videotaping? It doesn't mean they always lose lawsuits, but it means that people get to go in and ask questions.
Well, with the tape, everybody can go to the tape and see what happened. We don't have to worry about interpreting the medical records or taking a look at that. Both sides in this case said, thank God we had the videotape.
Mr. Wade, you don't agree?
Some hospitals don't permit the tapes in. Most hospitals, if the physician and the patient are agreeable, will try to accommodate them and will allow the taping. Some doctors just find, and nurses find, the presence of a camera very distracting. They want their attention on the mom and the baby. And other physicians are legitimately concerned about malpractice. We live in a society today where people sue all the time.
But Mr. Wade, doesn't that make it sound like the doctor's then worried about something going wrong and then being held accountable for it? I mean,
well, most of the physicians that I've talked with say that when they're in that delivery room and if something does happen with the patient or the baby, they want their full attention on the patient and the baby, and they don't want to be distracted by the presence of a camera in the room. And some are worried about the malpractice part of it, but the real concentration at that moment is on the mom and the baby.
Mr. Courtney, I think we all understand that there may be medical reasons under some circumstances not to have a video camera if the camera person or operator is in the way. But do you think that's the reason the doctors are opposing this now?
I don't think so. This is not about protecting parents or children. It's about protecting doctors from having acts of malpractice videotaped. And nobody goes into these things thinking that I want to put this on tape because if something happens, I want to have a videotape record of what the doctor might have done. That's not the purpose here. It's solely to have a record of a cherished event, and sometimes you catch an act of malpractice, and many times that's the only way you can bring the case.
Ms. Campos, I imagine that you were surprised by what you saw on the videotape.
Yes, I certainly was. It was like watching your child get run over or something. You've lived with the effects for years, and suddenly you see what happened.
So are you happy now in retrospect that you have this videotape or not?
I have mixed emotions. I'm glad that I videotaped it because I thought it was something I had done or I didn't know.
Mr. Wade, let me ask you this. Would it be a legitimate question for women and men who are going to have children, the husbands or the fathers? Let me get out of this. Would it be a legitimate question for people to ask their doctor whether or not they object to having a video camera in the delivery room and to make a decision about whether the competence of the doctor based upon whether or not to allow a video camera?
That's a legitimate question to ask your doctor, I think, and do it early on. Don't wait until you arrive at the hospital to do that. The physician will need to check with the hospital and do all of that. Most of the hospitals will permit that if it's okay with the physician. The other part of it is we have some dads that faint on the delivery room floor, and you got to move dad aside and continue to help the patient.
But a lot of mothers would like to capture that on videotape.
Well, and a lot of moms don't want the camera in the room at the time. So this is a very personal and intimate moment in the lives of people, and we suggest you talk it over with the doctor, check with the hospital, be sure it's okay with them. We have siblings are allowed in the delivery room, extended families. We do all kinds of things to try to make the birth experience really meaningful, and the camera's okay as long as everybody's comfortable.
Most hospitals now permit or do not permit videotape.
Most hospitals will permit it if the patient and the physician have agreed to it, and the ground rules are laid out ahead of time so that dad stays out of the way of the doctors and nurses.
Mr. Wade, we thank you. Mr. Portney, is that as it should be? Videotape should be allowed?
I think videotaping should be allowed, and I can tell you that in Tulsa, Oklahoma, most of the hospitals will not allow a parent to videotape the birth of their child. It's a cherished moment. It's something that parents want to have on record, and unfortunately, it does catch some acts of malpractice.
Ms. Campos, we're sorry for what happened in your case. We appreciate you both being here with us. Mr. Wade, we thank you for being with us as well. Up next, she's a streetwise and sexy federal marshal in Out of Sight. Jennifer Lopez tells us how her upbringing helped her play the role. And Good Morning America continues.